Our reading is from Matthew chapter 14, verse 22 through to verse 33. But we know this passage well. It begins with Jesus having heard of the tragic death of his cousin John the Baptist. He just wanted to go up a mountain by himself and pray. We don't know what he was feeling, what he was grieving. He just wanted to be alone. But the crowd followed him, and he saw this crowd coming to him, and we are told that he began ministering to them and healing them and caring for them. All of these people. And then they were hungry, and he fed them with the loaves and the fishes miracle that happened. But still, wanting to be alone after that whole miracle of the feeding, still grieving after John the Baptist's death, we can imagine. Again, he wanted to be alone. So he sent the disciples away from him to leave him alone on the mountain. Go out onto the Sea of Galilee. Go and fish. And so they went. But again, it wasn't to be alone for too long, because a storm blew up on the Sea of Galilee. And Jesus chose not to leave them alone out there in the dark where the storm was raging. And so he went to them. And then they saw him coming, walking towards them on top of the water. On top of the water. We're told that they were scared. We can't imagine what they must have felt as they saw Jesus moving towards them on top of the water. Peter courageously called out and wanted to know if it really was Jesus, and Jesus said that it was, and he said he wanted to come towards him if he truly was Jesus, and Jesus said, come. And so he got out of the boat. And for a while, Peter was actually able to walk on top of the water as well. But then we are told that when he noticed the waves and the storm and he started to sink, he called out for Jesus to save him. Jesus reached out, saved him, took him, and together they got into the boat. And the storm settled. So that's a kind of quick paraphrase of the reading that's going to come. Listen to it now as if for the very first time. James reading to us from the Message. This is like that other storming miracle recorded in all three of the synoptic Gospels. That's the one where Jesus came to control the storm, not by walking on top of the water so much as by calming it, just by speaking to the wind and the waves, saying, peace, be still. And then the wind and the waves just stopped, and the storm passed, and there was a great calm. I did try that once. I was with a pilgrimage group. We were out on the Sea of Galilee. It was a beautiful morning. We set off in the morning, a beautiful calm day. And I kid you not, we were out in the middle of the Sea of Galilee, and a storm blew up. We couldn't orchestrate this stuff. The sky turned dark. The waves started being all over the place. People were getting seasick and holding on to each other. And so I boldly went out to the side of the boat and I said, in Jesus' name, peace, be still. Nothing happened, and we went back to the shore. I guess that was Jesus' miracle. But let's get to how we are to understand this text. I believe that we are to see these storms, all of these storms, not so much as about something that happens to us on the outside of our lives, things that come at us and impact us, so much as something about what happens within our inner landscape. This is about what goes on the inside of our lives. That's where all the flustered, panicky, frantic stuff goes on as we experience times of vulnerability or loss or anger or hurt or transition. Whenever we're feeling vulnerable on the inside, the storms that we experience. And more, it suggests to us that as Christ followers, we are to see all of our life's storms, not simply as obstacles to be overcome, but as potentially these invitations for us to be able to draw closer to the person of Jesus Christ. Invitations for deeper seeing, not just panicky on the outside, but for deeper seeing, something beautiful and of Christ and profoundly intimate that is going on. Notice how Christ approaches those disciples not by eliminating that storm. He approaches them by walking on top of the water, coming to them from within the storm. The storm doesn't go away in this passage as Christ comes closer. Christ comes to them in the storm. We are being given to see how God is not so much outside all the forces of our lives that disrupt us and terrify us, so much as on and within those circumstances. Please bear with me. There's a profound difference here. Within the storms, right here, close, shimmering over and through all of the very waters that threaten us and frighten us. But then we are told that the disciples didn't recognize him. He was coming towards them, but they just saw something that terrified them. They didn't recognize him because their fears were distorting their perception. Their fears were all of what they could see. Christ was there, but they couldn't see him. It so often seems to me that God may come to us in forms that we don't expect. And so while we are still praying for the solutions, closer than our breathing, holiness of God may be with us, but we are looking in the wrong direction. And then it's identity before any kind of instruction. As they do perceive that it's Christ that's coming towards them, he doesn't tell them anything about what they are supposed to do. He simply says, identity, it's me. It is I. And I am with you. So often we want instruction, we want direction, we want the answer. And I think so often the answer is, it is I. I am with you. I am with you. God's first movement towards us is about calming the inner turbulence of our lives, that we can see holiness for what it is, that we can see beyond all of the distraction, all of what is causing us to panic and to be frightened. Before Peter is empowered to overcome the challenges of his life, walking on the water, he has firstly to become grounded in the fact that he's not alone, that Christ is with him. I am with you. Water walking begins with that knowledge, the faith that we are never, ever deserted. I am with you. And so Peter is empowered to step out. I love our faith is somehow enacted faith, is a movement. It's something that he does rather than something that we intellectually get our heads around. Now I understand. No, he didn't understand nothing. He just steps out. He's empowered to do something about what he is realizing. Peter's action is not heroic. It's very, very human. It's this mixture of courage and fear. It seems to me that faith isn't about not having any doubts. It seems to me that faith is the willingness to move forward even while we have some measure of doubt, to be able to have action. He didn't know that he's going to be able to walk on the water. He just had his eyes on Jesus, and he felt he could move in that direction. What gives Peter the courage to walk on water is that he's walking not towards safety necessarily, but towards Jesus Christ. It's the presence of his Lord. It's his perception of his Lord that empowers him to be able to move forward in his circumstances. The miracle is not that he defies physics nearly so much as that he trusts the deeper reality of Jesus' presence despite the dangers of his circumstances. Oh, there's so much in there for us, folks. There's so much. It's only as Peter starts looking away from Jesus, as he starts becoming aware of what's going on around him, as he starts noticing the water, that he begins to sink. While his eyes are on the Christ, he's able to persevere, he's able to overcome. This is not some failure by Peter, so much as a description of the universal human condition. It's what we do. It's what we do most readily. It's what we do most easily. Thank God that it's in our sinking moments that we find God's grace to be most profoundly displayed. It's where our understanding of Jesus with us becomes most intimate, most intimately connected. It's usually, most often, only as we find ourselves failing that we find ourselves being saved. It's as he's sinking and crying out that he encounters the hand of Jesus Christ reaching out and picking him up. And don't you just love how all three of the Gospels, they describe how there was no hesitation in Jesus' part. The minute he started sinking and calling out, Jesus was there. He was right there to catch him, holding him. No hesitation, no rebuke, only connection. Even his, "Oh, you of little faith," is not a condemnation. It's not a criticism. It's just a statement of what is. You of little faith, me of little faith, we of little faith. That's who we are. Thank God it's only faith the size of a mustard seed is what we need. Oh, we of little faith. He's referring to Peter's as yet undeveloped trust. What's that saying? Please be patient with me. God's not finished with me yet. I'm still growing. Peter was still growing, as are we. It seems that God meets us right where we are, not where we think we ought to be. Right where we are. Right here where our faith is just that sinky little bit of what it is. This is where we encounter the holiness of Christ coming towards us. This story has got very little to do with Peter's lack of faith, and it's got a lot to do with God's amazing grace that reaches out to us in our circumstances, giving us hope and courage. It seems that water walking is not just about miracles. It's about us receiving and believing in the fact that we are receiving holy attention. God knows where I live, my circumstances. Christ is with me. It's my holy attention that I would give to becoming aware of Christ's presence around me and within me, attention and my intention of finding him there. There is the potential for every moment of fear, every moment of transition, every moment of uncertainty to become an invitation for us to step out in faith towards an awareness of Christ's loving presence. Every moment, unqualified. The churning waters beneath our feet, all of those unsettling conversations that we may have, the bad decisions that we have made in the past, have been made at us, the strained and crumbling relationships that we've had, the failed relationships that we've had, the exhausting responsibilities that we've allowed to overwhelm us. We believe all of those things are being held within the same holy presence that held Peter and stopped him from being consumed by them. This powerful, powerful message of intervention. Phil was speaking about miracles last week. This is not about miracles, you're speaking about parables last week. This is an enacted parable. Jesus and how he rescues Peter from the waters. An archetypical description of how Christ engages us in our circumstances and brings us healing and hope. Our faithful living as followers of Jesus Christ means trusting that God is already with us in every storm, within all of the waves that threaten to consume us. That cancer diagnosis that doesn't go away. this aging thing that doesn't go away, the relationship struggles that we have that don't go away, that diagnosis that doesn't go away. Where should I go to be away from you, O God? Because even in the storms, you are with me, reaching out to me. Sure, there will always be all sorts of challenges coming at us in our lives. But from texts like today's passage, we can know this. And I'm suggesting 4 things. Firstly, the possibility of our water walking relies on our awakening to Christ's presence. He's here, but for our waking up to it. Christ's presence within us and around us and everywhere. The story is an enacted parable showing us how Christ meets us in the very places that feel chaotic, frightening, or uncertain. Second thing, the storms that we are dealing about in our lives are virtually all things that happen inside of us, in our inner landscape. Yes, our outer circumstances influence us in all sorts of ways, but the real storms are what's going on in here. They symbolize the panic, the vulnerability, the disorientation that we experience whenever our external circumstances are a challenge. Thirdly, the risen Christ approaches us through the chaos, not apart from the chaos. The chaos is often not the distraction that gets in the way, as the conduit, as the way, the channel in which the holiness of Christ's presence becomes available, comes close. Jesus walking on the water reveals a God who moves towards us across the very things that threaten to overwhelm us. Oh, I've got to say that again. Jesus walking on the water reveals a God who moves towards us across the very things that threaten to overwhelm us. And we miss him because fear distorts our perception. We allow our eyes to go to our fears, and we miss the holiness of sacred presence right with us. Just like those disciples, we so often fail to recognize him because his divine presence often arrives in forms that we do not expect and in moments that we would never choose. I remember once in South Africa many years ago, I was doing military service, and it was pitch dark at night, and I was having to get back to my hometown, and I was standing on the side of the road. We used to do that back in those days, in your military uniform, the side of the road, and kind people would stop and pick you up and give you a ride. And this one farmer had left me in the middle of nowhere, in the pitch dark of the night. And I was a little bit scared, standing in the middle of nowhere and dark and icy cold, and heard a crunching of the gravel around me, and someone was walking towards me, and I didn't know what it was. And it was one of the laborers on one of the farms. I could tell by his thick accent. And he could somehow make out my form. And he grunted to me in Afrikaans that it was cold, and I said, yes, it was cold. And he put something into my hands, a bottle of something. And he said, have a drink. And I did. And it burnt all the way down. And I don't know what it could have been, gasoline for all I know. But I took a sip, and he took his bottle back, and he said, cheers, and he kept on walking. And I was warmed all the way through as I stood on the side of that road. And I think I met Jesus that night on the side of that road with his funny little bottle, coming to us in all of our circumstances as we have eyes to see him. I don't think I noticed him back then, but looking back over the years, I think I do now. How is Christ coming to you in ways that you are just missing because you are so busy focusing on your circumstances that you are not seeing him? When we do become aware, notice how his first words are never a commandment. It's just, I'm here. It is I. It's okay. I'm with you. I'm with you. It's as if we can only faithfully act after remembering how we are beloved, held, accompanied, the holiness of God with us. Peter does not walk towards safety, he walks towards Jesus. And that's his salvation. That's his hope. That's his comfort. It's as if he's telling us that our deepest reality is always Christ's presence with us. It's never the storm. Oh, folks, that's good news. All of that was just the third point. The last point, the fourth point. We sink when our attention shifts from an appreciation of holy presence to our being terrified by the threat. That's when we sink. It's as he looks down that when he notices the wind and the waves. Thank God, Jesus always, quickly, unhesitatingly reaches out as we reach out towards him. He's here. No hesitation, no rebuke, only connection. Thank God that our moments of faltering often become the moments of deepest possible encounter and invitation for us to step out towards love, knowing love and being loved. But it's our keeping our eyes on Christ which is essential for our being able to rise above the storms. This beautiful song that we are about to hear is all about how we overcome not by avoiding storms, but by staying oriented towards the one who holds us. This 2013 song that we sing, Matt Crocker, Joel Houston, and Solomon Ligthel, speaks to us so clearly in this regard. You call me out upon the waters where feet may fail. But thank you, O Holy God, that you hold us in all of our circumstances. Help us to be more aware of your presence. Help us to keep our eyes on you. Thank you for the promise that as we do so, it is your love that wins and never the waves. May it be so in Jesus' name. Amen.